so what we're going to do, we're going to start by, I'm just going to minimize this for now. Go away for now. Because create a table of values to produce a pencil and paper graph. So what I'm going to teach you how to do is we've done a table of values last lesson, right? We talked about x being our input. It's our input, and y was our output. What was another name for x? Independent. Independent input. And y is the dependent. Okay. And so last day what we did is we literally, you could choose any x values. Your input is up to you, or they could be given to you at a table, and we plug it into our equation, right? So where I see x, I'm going to put, in this case, I want my input to be -2, and I can plug that in, right? And so 2 times -2 minus 1, -5, okay? Now, your graphing calculator can actually make a table of values for you. Yay! So how do we do that? Okay, so this is where I need you to all to grab a graphing calculator. So I'd like your first step is we're going to go to y equals. And do you know where the y equals button is? Some of you yes, some of you no. Top left button. It's gray. I think it's gray. Is yours gray? Yeah. Right? Okay, it's the top left. Can you see my little cursor right here? Circling around. There it is. You shouldn't have anything there. If you do, push clear. Also the plot. So plot 1, plot 2, plot 3, those should never be bolded. If your calculator won't graph, sometimes what happens is students will come up to me and be like, it's not graphing. And one of the plots accidentally got highlighted. Okay, that's for a totally different function that you use for statistics in Math 20-2. So if that turns on, you just have to push enter. Those should never be highlighted. Okay. Sometimes your graphing calculator, like it pocket dials kind of idea. So you'll try and graph and they'll give you error. And if you scroll down, sometimes students will have like plus and minus signs, like in some of the y equals. So those should all be clear. Like if I had, I don't know, like this is what will happen. I'll see stuff like this. Someone's, I don't know, that's a little bit weird. And so of course your calculator can't graph that, right? You can't really see it, but always check that. If it's not working, there might be something that just you left it on in your bag and it started typing. Okay. All right. So what we want to do is type in our equation, and our equation is 2x minus 1, right? So the x button is right above apps, right below mode. xt alpha n. That is our x button. Okay. So 2x minus 1. Does everyone have that in there? Yeah? Okay, so we could look at the graph, but I also want to look at the table of values. So where do you see where table is? Look where graph is. Graph is the top right button.
So second table?
So second table. You have to push second table, second graph. And if you push second graph, it'll take you to the table of values. And here you are. -2, you can see, is -5. You see that? -1, y is -3. So let's fill those in. At 0, when x is 0, y is -1. 1 is 1. 2 is 3. 3 is 5. And 4 is 7. So now, can we plot those? Yeah. Whenever you're making a graph on a test, I don't want to see just a rough line. Okay, you need to plot the actual points and then connect them. Connect the dots. Okay, don't just like throw a line up. It kind of looks like this. It needs to be accurate. So let's plot these points. So when x is -2, y was -5. So 2 left, down 5. Right? -1. 1 left, down 3. When x is 0, y is 1. What's that called? Oh. Yeah, y-intercept. I put it at +1. It's at -1. Next was 1. Y is 1. So 1 over what? 1 up. 2, 3. So 2 right, 3 up. And then 4, 3, and 5. We can keep going if we want. Now, if this is an equation, do we connect these points? Yes, always. The only time we don't connect is if it's an application type problem where it doesn't make, like the number of students, well, you can't have half of a student. Like there's an actual context, it's an application. If it's just an equation, we always connect it. So if you need to borrow a ruler, you're welcome to borrow a ruler. If you want to use your calculator lid, that works too. It's up to you, but let's connect these points. And we should extend it. Don't just connect the points you've drawn. It should extend from the edge of the graph to the edge of the graph. So when I draw this, I want to draw this from edge to edge. Okay. So if you want to see your graph on your graphing calculator, what do you think you're going to push? Graph. Right. Now, my windows are not, yours does not look like this. And I'll teach you how to reset that after. Does yours look like this? Okay, so we just push the graph button. So the top right button, push graph, and it should show up. Yeah. Does everyone look like this? Okay. Remember that it's not completely to scale in the sense that we're graphing out a scale of -10 to 10, and -10 to 10, and we're making it a rectangle. Like your screen's a rectangle. So it's going to be stretched, right? A little bit on, like, horizontally. Does that make sense? Like a TV, we're actually, because this is supposed to be a square, but is your screen a square? No, it's a rectangle. So it's going to be a little distorted. It's not perfect. It would actually, a perfect world, your screen should be a square. Okay? All right. Okay, so if you forget how to do what we just did, it's right here. Okay? Those are the instructions. So let's look at the next page. Let's talk about windows. Okay, so your window settings are, remember when I talked about how this is from -10 to 10? Here, right? We can change that. We can change the windows or change basically how much, like how the scale of the graph in a way, or how far left or how far right we want to look at the graph. So that's going to be the window button. Thank you. You did that to make me feel better. I appreciate that. Okay, so the right beside y equals is windows. If you push that, it looks like this. Okay, so push the window button. It says X min. So on your graph, what that's doing is, if your minimum, I'll just draw this on the board. Okay, so we're saying I want my windows, I want to look at the graph between x equals -10 to, that would be my minimum, to my max of, thank you, +10. And a scale of 1, meaning I want each of my ticks to be worth 1. There should be 10 ticks on each side. Forgive me on my number of ticks. Same with y, we're looking at -10 minimum to a maximum 10. If I want, I could change that to be whatever I want. I can zoom out, so to speak. I could go from -100 to +100 on my x. Now, I probably wouldn't want to do a scale of 1, because then how many ticks do I need to draw there? 100 between 0 and 100, so 200 total. right? So how much would you want it to go up by? Probably 10. And then for our y, negative 100 to 100, scale of, let's go again by tens. So if I graph that, looks something like this. Now, my y-intercept was negative 1. It looks like 0 because now this is negative 100 and this is 100. Right? We changed our windows. This is a negative 100 and this is 100. And each one of these ticks are worth 10 and 10. So here's negative 10, negative 10. So we can basically zoom out or zoom in. Now how do we reset? That's the number one thing you need to know. You mess up your windows or you want it back to negative 10 to 10, you don't have to go back to Windows and retype it in. There is a beautiful feature called zoom. So that's the third button. Push the zoom. There's many options. We can zoom in, we can zoom out, decimal, square, stamp. You basically are only going to use zoom in, zoom out, and zoom standard. So zoom standard is the negative 10 to 10. If you want to reset your windows back to normal, we push number 6. That's the most important one. So if we go zoom 6, we're back to our original windows, negative 10 to 10. You can see our y-intercept of negative 1 here. So zoom 6 resets everything. So looking here, what do you want to see? Trace feature. Okay. Yeah. Arrow windows. Okay, push zoom 6. Zoom 6. Still? Okay. Give me a second. Okay. Zoom 6. Yeah. Nope. Not until Math 30, when you're graphing trigonometric functions, which are really fun. So Math 30, it will matter. Not for us. Because the only time it matters if you're in degree mode is if you actually push the button sine, cos, or tan. The only 3 buttons it affects. The rest it doesn't matter. Okay, so trace, we talked about trace a little bit. Trace has to be within your window range. You can also, when you're in trace, you can use your cursor and scroll along, and it doesn't give you nice points though. I don't know if you noticed that. Left and right or up and down. We're gonna have to go left. See, can you see it now? There he is. They're not nice points though. Or just, they're not nice. Okay, so thanks. If the part, I'm just going to highlight this one thing in your notes. If the X value you want is not part of the window settings you're using, you'll get an error and you must change your window setting to include that X value. Okay, and that's what I was trying to talk about. So if I wanted when X was 50, I need to change my windows to include up to X is 50. Now we can manually change them, or you can use something called the zoom feature. We can zoom out. So if you go back to your graph and push zoom, okay, I want you to go to zoom. That's F3, I guess, sort of thing, right? And you should have this window up in front of you. Does everyone see that? Where are you? Come on. Oh, nope. There you are. Good. Okay, so it should look like that. Now zoom out. You can either zoom in or zoom out. In this case, if I wanted to zoom out because I wanted to know what's y when X is 50, we're going to push number 3. Now nothing will happen at first. Nothing will happen. Usually your cursor should be at the center of your graph. Is your cursor in the middle? So wherever you want to zoom out from is where your cursor will be. If I want to specifically zoom out in a certain, like this part of my graph here and focus there, then I can move that cursor. But nothing happens until you push enter. So you won't ever really have to move that cursor. You just have to push enter. So if you push enter, it's going to zoom out. Now notice it doesn't change your scale. Okay? And you can keep pushing enter and it will continue zooming out. And if you want to see what the windows are, you push the window button. And so I zoomed out twice. And so my calculator made this my window settings. Okay? So you can keep pushing enter and it'll keep zooming out. Is that large enough to find out when x is 50? Sure is. It probably could have last time. So now, how do I find out what y is when x is 50? What do I push? Trace, 50, enter. Now it will find it. Okay? Did it find it for you? Trace, 50, enter. Yeah, there's a handout on the front table. Okay, so now how do I reset my windows? I want to reset them, go back to normal. Zoom, 6. Zoom, I go back to zoom, and we want standard windows, 6. And now it's back to normal. Okay, zoom 6 to reset your windows. Okay, let's move on. Next page. All right, finding x. If you know why, this is really important. So we talked about finding y. Finding y is easy. You just push the trace button. Put in your x, put in your input, out comes your output. But what if you only know your output and you want your input? That's a little tougher. So we're going to look at saying here, this question here. Say you want x equals -7. So we're still looking at the graph y equals 2x minus 1. And they say find x when y is -7. Okay? So that's your question. Okay? That's a little tougher. Finding out what x is when y is -7. So what I want you to do, what we have to do is actually go to y2. We're going to go and put in another y. Because the problem is your calculator, unless you have an Inspire, which I don't think anyone does here, just for your benefit, trust me. We're going to go to y equals again, and now we're going to go put in a second y value. So we know y is equal to -7, and we want to find what x is. A little bit more work than trace feature. And push graph. Now your windows should be back to normal. If they're not, push zoom 6. If it doesn't look like this, push zoom 6. Does everyone have that in front of them? Yeah. Yes. Good, so far recording. Good. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is we want to find this coordinate right here. We want to find when y is -7, what is the x value? So conveniently, that's the intersection point of these two lines. And so we're going to find the intersection. And that will be our answer. Okay? So how do we find this intersection? Well, one of the most common things you're going to be using this in this course, in all your high school math courses, is this calculate feature right here. So how do I get to that? Second trace. So second trace. And which one do you think I'm going to push? Number 5 for intersect. Now once you push that, you can just push enter 3 times. You don't actually have to move. You can move the cursor over to the intersection point, but you don't have to. You can just go straight to pushing enter the 3 times. First curve guess, second curve guess, and then your guess. Just push it 3 times and there it is. What's x when y is -7? -3. There's your answer. Okay? So we'll practice some in a bit. So that's where we're using this intersection feature right here. Okay, second trace. And you just push enter 3 times. Okay? So we're pushing second, trace, number 5 is intersect, and then enter times 3. Enter, enter, enter. Those are the buttons we want to push. when we're looking for an x value and we know the y value. Okay. All right. So moving on. It's a lot to learn. Could you imagine having your quiz the next day on this? Yeah, I'm glad we're doing this today. Okay. So we're going to use technology to graph something fun. How about a quadratic? Yay. Quadratic is something with degree 2. Okay? A function with degree 2. So power of 2 in it. So the question says, graph y equals. So we're going to go to y equals. Clear everything that's there. Push clear. Go down, clear. And type in that equation. X squared minus 2x. Take away 3. Okay? I'll write down the steps that we're doing here. So we went y equals button, and then we typed in x. Do you want me to write the button? X t theta n button. Power 2 minus 2. No, I'm just writing it if you want this in your notes. You're good? This is all the buttons I pushed. Okay, that's what I pushed. That was the first thing I did. Okay, it says give appropriate window settings. Well, first of all, I don't know if I need to change my window settings, and I'm going to show you how to write them in a second. It says find y when x is 5 and x is 15. So the first part, there's like so many questions here. Find y when x is 15. How would I do that? I know my x and I'm looking for y. Okay, let's go to graph, and that's the trace button. So trace, then what would I push? This is 5. Enter. And the answer is 12. So what I pushed was trace, 5, enter, and my answer was y is equal to 12. Okay, the second one asked us, second question, second thing they want us to find. Find y when x is 15. Okay, so if I try it this time, will it work? Trace, 15, enter. No, what do we have to change? We need to zoom out, change our windows. We can either manually change them. If we manually change them, we push, so go enter, get out of there, push the window button. We can change them ourselves. What could I change them to? 20, sure, negative 20 to 20. You can leave it a scale of 1, or you can change it, it's up to you. Negative 20 for y min to 20. You never need to change the resolution. It doesn't actually really do much, but make it faster or slower. That's all it does. So make sure it goes negative 20, 21, negative 20, 21. Okay, so push graph. Here should look something like this. Okay, so now we push trace, 15, enter. 192. Wow. Okay, so we had to change our windows. So I'm going to write this, changed windows. How we write the windows is as following. Okay, we write them like this. In square brackets, so we write x with a colon. In square, we're going to write the x minimum, comma x maximum, comma the x scale. And then y, we do the same thing. Y min, y max, y scale. That's always the format we use. So for us, it would look like what? What was the minimum x we used? Negative 20, comma, the max, 20. Did we change the scale? No, it's still 1. Okay, and so the y we would write as, same thing, negative 20, 20, and 1. So if windows are given to you for a graph, they look like this. They tell you, okay, change your windows. So this is your x min, x max, x scale. Y min, y max, y scale. Okay? And then we were able to go second, trace, 15. Enter. Sorry, not second trace, just trace, right? Just trace. And that gave us 192. Y was equal to 192. Okay, so that's how we write the appropriate window settings. That would be how. The last thing it asked me to find is what? Find x if y is 12. So if they give us a y, what do we do? Put it in y2. Okay, so we're going to go put it in y2. Y equals, and y2 we're going to put it as 12. And then we're going to push graph. Hey, one answer or two? Two, because there's 2 intersection points. Travelers are fun. So y2 was, we put y2 is 12. And we want to find the intersection point. How do I find an intersection point? So we go back to y equals. We pushed y equals. The button we pushed was y equals. And then in y2 we put 12. Okay, how do I find an intersection? Does anyone remember? Second trace, because we want to go to calculate. Number 5, which is intersect. Okay, so second trace. Pull this up again. Number 5 for intersect. Now here's the thing. This time there's two intersection points. So we need to scroll to the one we want first, then push enter 3 times. Okay, which one do you want to do first? The one on the left or the right? Left. Okay, so let's scroll over. So use your cursor, get over to the left one, and then push enter 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Answer is x equals, pull it up, negative 3 is the first one. So x equals negative 3, comma, there's another one. There's 2 intersection points, right? I lost it. Oh, there it is. Second trace. So to do it all over again. Number 5. And now scroll over to the other one. So push the right arrow, get over. I'm going to pause it for a second and then see if anyone needs help. Okay? Push enter 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And the other one is 5. So that's our answer. Okay? So yeah, just scroll over, scroll, and then enter times 3. Okay? So does anyone need help? So this last question, next question said, use technology to graph y equals 2x minus 50. Give appropriate window settings, find x or y if x is 0, and then find x if y is 40. So if you have y equals in here, you have to clear what's there. 2x minus 50. Oops, I put in y2. Doesn't matter though. Okay, you can't see, oh, well, because of our last window settings, you might be able to still see something. Did yours look like that? Yeah, so we still need to zoom out. So you can either just go to the windows, change them yourself, or push zoom 3 for zoom out, Nothing happens because you have to push enter. Okay? So from there, I have to write my window settings. I have to write down the appropriate what window settings were used. Okay? So whatever you have there, we're going to write that down. So push window. I don't know if yours is the same as mine. It doesn't have to be. Okay, as long as you can see your graph. My window settings are for x, negative 80, 80, and I'm going to actually change the scale because I don't like that solid line. It's trying to fit 160 ticks on the horizontal axis. So I'm going to change it to 5, personally. Just going to change that. Okay, you don't have to. My y was also negative 80 to 80, and I'm going to change the scale as well to 5. It's up to you. You don't have to. It doesn't change your answer. It just makes a nicer graph. Doesn't that look a little nicer than those thick lines? Okay, so the first part is to find y when x is 0. What do I push? What do I push? Trace. Well, there it is. Just landed there. 0, enter. Trace 0, enter. And it's negative 50. Did you get the same thing? Good. So trace 0, enter. And it gave me y equals negative 50. Okay, good. The second part asked me to find x if y is 40. So where do you go? You go to y equals, and in y2 we're going to put 40. I accidentally I'm going to put in y1 because I put my equation in y2. Doesn't make a difference. Graph it. And now, trace 5 for intersection. Now, how many intersections are there? 1. So do you actually even have to scroll over to it? No, you're just push enter 3 times. Your calculator's not going to be confused. There's only 1 to find. You can scroll over if you want, but if there's only 1, it's not going to be like, because the problem is if there's 2, it's always going to go whatever's closer to the cursor. So wherever that little blinking guy is, it's going to find the one closest to that. But there's only 1 intersection, so the closest is going to be the same every time, no matter where you are. All right, enter, enter, enter. The answer is x equals 45. Yay. Good. Learned something new today. All right, so this here there is on the next page some practice. You can practice. And the solutions are on the math website. I'm going to get you to grab your workbooks really quickly. Okay? So, and turn to page 433. Now, most of this we can just kind of ignore because we've already talked about it. 433. I need water. Okay. We've talked about windows. We talked about putting something into y equals. So let's turn the page. So here's just like if you need a reference. There's more reference here how to do things. So what your windows, what they stand for, it's kind of self-explanatory. How to zoom and reset. Okay, the table feature, which we looked at. And so lesson 5 was basically all stuff we've done, right? Using trace, given a y value, so y2, and finding the intersection point, looking for x, and so forth. Okay? So all of those are still the same. I was going to look at, not going to look at this one, keep going. Okay, X-intercepts is one thing we haven't talked about. So there's two ways to find x-intercepts. And so I'm going to go back here. Let's look at example 2. And it says, find the x and y intercepts of the graph. Which one do you want to do? A or B? Let's do 1. B. Okay. So let's first talk about y-intercepts. Y-intercepts are when what? When x is 0. So, we grab our graphing calculators. Let's type this equation in. So go to y equals, clear everything that's there. Type in this equation. Make sure to use a negative symbol instead of a minus symbol in front of the x squared. Negative x squared plus x plus 6. Okay. Now our windows are going to be messed up from our last question, right? You push it, graph. So how do I reset my windows? Zoom. So everybody go zoom 6. Zoom 6 to reset your windows. Should look something like that. So if we know what x is 0 and we want y, how do we figure that out? Trace, then you got your x is, you're right. So do you put x to 0? So trace 0, enter. So at a y, when we're looking for a y-intercept, we can just go trace 0, enter. Trace 0, enter, and it's 6. So the y-intercept equals 6. X-intercepts are when y equals 0. So there's actually two ways I'm going to show you how to get an x-intercept. Okay, two methods. The one you already know. So if you know the y value and you want x, what do we push? What do we do? We push the y equals button. Good. Y equals, and then we did y2 we set as, in this case, 0. It's kind of nice if your calculator's colored. I'm going to bring up this for a second. Push graph, because now you can see, like, if your graph isn't colored, you don't see this line, right? Because it's on the x-axis. And then what are we looking for? The intersection. So what do we push? Second, trace 5. Do we have to scroll to the one we want? Yes, because there are 2. So scroll then, there, and then push. Enter, enter, enter. So -2. So we went second, trace 5 for intersection. Enter 3 times. We got -2. So one x-intercept was -2. And the other one, we'll do it again. Second, trace 5. Scroll over. You have to at least just get closer to it than the other one. You technically don't have to go all the way. As long as you're closer to that one than the other one, you can push enter 3 times. Did you get 3? Okay, so those are my 2 x-intercepts. That's the first method. There's one more method for finding x-intercepts on your calculator. So this is the one you're used to. Okay, I'm going to show you one more method. And method 2, can you first go back to your graphing calculators and get rid of y2? So go to y equals and clear y2. So there's nothing there. So clear your y2 and just pull up your graph. So it should look just like this. Right. Okay, so method 2 is using something called zeros. So zeros are another name for x-intercepts. And you're going to learn more about that in Math 20-1 or 20-2. So go again to second trace. So instead of intersect, I can use number 2 for 0. Because a 0 is when y is 0. What's the x value when y is 0? Okay, it's x-intercept. It's another name for x-intercept. They should just call it x-intercept instead of a 0. Be less confusing. But it's the same thing, means the same thing. So you'd use number 2. Now the problem with this method is I think it's a little tougher because it says left bound. Do you see that? So what that means is if I'm looking for this x-intercept right here, I have to go to the left of it. So I have to take my cursor and go to the left side of it. And then push enter. And now it says, so you should have this little arrow that pops up. You might just get an arrow, you might not get the dotted line. Okay? Then it says right bound. So now it wants me to go to the right side of the x-intercept. And push enter. So what I'm telling my calculator is find the x-intercept between these 2 points. That's what I'm telling my calculator to do. Where does it cross the x-axis between these 2 points? The last one says guess. Guess doesn't matter. You can just push enter. And there it is, -2. Okay, so don't love this method. And then the other one I'd have to do again. Second trace, number 2. So now left side of this x-intercept. So if we, sorry, keep pushing it. So here's the x-intercept right there, right? Left side of it will be up here. Enter. Right side of it will be down here. Enter, and then push enter for your guess. And there's the other one of 3 and 0. Okay, so that is method 2. Method 2 is going second trace number 2, which is zeros, but you have to go left bound, right, and then enter. Okay, so that's the other option for x-intercepts. Alrighty. See, this is a long lesson. Okay, so if you want to just stick to what you know, stick to what you know. Okay. 2 options. If you like the first method, stick with it. Okay? Your head hurts? Okay, so we're supposed to do lesson 6. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's, yeah, we can do part of it tomorrow. And you want to work on practicing this? Yeah. Okay, so we'll fit in lesson 6 into part of tomorrow's stuff, which actually works great. I'm okay with that. So that I'm going to take away, this is going to move into part of your assignment later. Okay, so highlight the following. There's 2 things. There's also the worksheet. Okay, so lesson 5. All right, here we are. 1, A, C, oops. I'm so glad we did this today and not right before your quiz. D, F, and G. Okay, and then number 2, 3, A, B, C, D, and E. So not F, G, or H. 4 is A, B, C, and E. Okay. And then no 5. And 6 is, next page, A, C, E, and F. And that's it. Okay? And then in the handout, if you have time, to try some of those ones. Even if you try a couple. Okay? So in here, there's no page number. Try a couple of them. It says underneath find y when x is, find x when y is. So you do a rough sketch of it, write out your windows. Okay? These can be a pretty rough sketch. You have to draw your everything. The rough sketch is good. Okay, a couple of on the handout. I'd say pick 4. How's that sound? From notes package. Okay? All right. So let's use the rest of class to do some work and practice this stuff.